Hi, welcome to my video. So as you can see, I'm already done with the wings and the wig, and I also have a body mod, but there's still a lot of painting to do. I made these wings out of resin, and I used the original mechanic to make them fully articulated like the original Luna wings that she came with. And for the wig, I used the same method that Mothews uses. They have a lot of videos I watched when I was little. I made yarn wefts and glued them onto a wig cap and then trimmed it all up. And then I also made a little stinger out of some epoxy sculpt and a wire. So for the painting, I'm starting with a yellow that kind of matches her skin tone already. I'm not great at color matching, but it's close enough, and I'm using that to cover up her the epoxy sculpt that got onto the rest of her skin. Now I'm going in with a black. I actually mixed a little bit of gold in there, which you can't really tell, but it comes out in the sunlight, and I'm using that to paint all of her black stripes on. I'm using really watered down colors so that everything goes on really smooth and even and dries really flat, and then I also cover everything with a thin layer of Liquitex matte varnish to seal it all in. Now I'm doing a tiny bit of body blushing, even though she's a bug. It just makes things kind of look a little bit more alive. But I'm using mostly an orange so that it's all subtle and natural and really blends in with her skin. Now onto the face, I start with the blushing again, using an orange mostly, and on this I built up a little bit more to some reds in some of the brighter places. You'll see it kind of get darker through the process. And then I color in her nostrils to add some depth, and then I start on the whites of the eyes. Then I go in with some chalk pastels and kind of mark out where I want the eyebrows to be. I went for sort of shorter, almost dot-like eyebrows. I just felt it would fit her face. And I add the little creases to her eyelids. Still building up the blush, making it a little bit redder in the lips. I'm going in with a kneaded eraser to clean up anything that is out of place with the chalk pastels. Now I'm starting on the eyebrows. They're a little crooked. I fix it later, don't worry. They will be fixed off camera. And then to bring up some of the black from her body, I added some to her face by giving her black lip gloss. I start by building up some black chalk pastels, mainly in the center of her lips. Again, cleaning it up with the kneaded eraser. Now I am deepening up the creases on her eyes with some chalk pastels. Then I clean it up with the kneaded eraser again and add some highlights with some paint. Now I'm starting by kind of marking out the hexagons that are going to be inside her eyes. I wanted to give her like almost like compact bug eyes, but also kind of human eyes. I wanted to know ahead of time kind of where everything would land. And so I'm starting with the outlines. I go over it with a light blue. If I could go back and do this again, I would have started with a darker blue because it's easier to add highlights than it is to add shadows. Now I'm adding the lip creases with some paint. Now I'm adding the shadows to the whites of the eyes. I'm not sure why I did it at this part, but it turns out okay. Now here I am redarkening up the outlines because everything got kind of lost under that coat of paint. It's almost like I didn't need to pick such a light color. And here I go, adding a little bit of orangey pink to the waterline. And I'm gonna be so real with you, I don't know what I'm doing here, like why I'm marking the pupils out this early with like a lighter color. Like I don't know where the pupils are gonna go later. I just ignore that part. And now here I go adding the shadows. And now the highlights with a lighter blue. I kept them kind of simple for this one. Just kind of a little swoop at the bottom of each. I'm making there more highlight and less shadow on the lower parts of the eyes, the lower pupils, and more shadows and less highlights on the upper parts, because that's where the sun would hit more, is the lower parts of the eyes. Now I am going in for the lashes. This was definitely the scariest part and the hardest part. I just kind of went for like a very feathery lash look. And then I'm doing the bottom lashes. I tried to make them really small and dainty. Now I'm finally doing the black, like the actual pupils in black. And here I am marking out the highlights. The paint I used was a little watered down, so I did 2 passes just to get it all right. And once I add those, her eyes look so much more alive. Now I go in with Liquitex Gloss Varnish and I add that to the lips, and that's how you get it to look like lip gloss. Duh. And then for the finishing touch, I gave her dark purple nail polish. I just felt like it went really well with her, you know, complementary colors. Okay, so for the shoes, I put some clay on her feet, and here I am running a stick along some tapered ovals to make little dandelion seeds. So after I smooth out the sole of the shoe, I go in with a sewing pin. I really dot on the bottoms of the shoes a lot to give them that wood texture, and I run it along the sides to give it kind of a bark texture. I also make a groove around the edge to separate the bark from the wood. Once the clay is set, I use a light brown to paint the shoes on the inside and the bottom. I go in with a darker brown for the seeds and the bark. And then I use a lighter bark color to texture the bark. I'm mostly dry brushing here, and then I'm also picking out like a couple of areas that kind of need highlights and giving them a little extra attention. I'm doing the same thing with the seed, and then I'm using a lighter wood color to make this oval pattern. And then for the dandelion seeds, I am using a spare yarn weft and some string to make the little dandelion puffs. I use fray check to make sure that everything stays in place, trim them super short, and then I use a flat iron to flatten them out into a puff. Once those are all done, I drill a little hole in the shoe and I string the dandelion puffs through, and I glue on the seeds on the other side off camera. Now I'm sewing on a little piece of ribbon to be like a little piece of grass on the shoe. I tie a little bow on one end of the ribbon on each shoe. For the shoes, I wanted them to kind of cross over in the front and then underneath, and then look like they tied into a bow in the front. And here I am gluing on magnets. I would not recommend doing this. If you can find a small enough closure, that's great. I ended up having to actually sew in another piece of ribbon, and it kind of weakened the magnets because of that. But the magnets stayed in, the shoes just don't like staying on. I would double up on the magnets and sew them in, or find something that's more secure if you're gonna do this at home. So learn from my mistakes. And then I cut the ribbon at a very steep angle to give it that grass blade look. And then I go in with a little bit more fray check again. And after that, these shoes are all done and ready to be put on. Now I'm making her a little pollen sack so she has somewhere to put her little treats that she finds while she's out and about. Now I cut out two long, thin strips of fabric, little rectangles, and I'm sewing the short sides together on both of them. One should be a tulle kind of fabric, and the other should be something yellow and patterned. After you finish sewing the rectangles, go ahead and iron down the sides, then pin them together with the tool on the inside and flip over one of the edges so that it looks like this. You're going to be sewing down the edge, but leave a little bit of room for a needle to pass through, because later on we're going to put a drawstring in this bag. Then pin together the bottom. It'll look like this. And you're going to run a basting stitch along the base of the bag. After you finish the basting stitch, go ahead and pull the thread tight so that you can gather the fabric and make the bag look a little bit baggier. Then flip it the right way out, and there you go. It's almost a bag, more like a bowl. Then put a sewing pin through the holes and put a little bit of fray check on there. Now, changing course to the back of the bag, we're going to go through the back, near the top but not through the channel, and we're going to start crocheting a little strap for the bag. I've never crocheted before and I'm doing it by hand, so I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. Yeah, just have fun making a chain. You're going to want your crochet chain to be just a little bit smaller than the circumference of your doll's hips. Mine turned out to be about 8 centimeters. And then leave that little loop on the end and bring through a little necklace clasp like that. And this is going to be the hook for your bag. And I did not know how to finish this, so I just kind of tied a knot. Figured it's good enough. I don't know. Sue me if you're a crocheter, I guess. Then I am doing the same thing, but this time I'm just tying a little loop. I'm tying off a knot to keep it in there on the inside and snipping the ends. And now you have something to hook the clasp to. Now I'm working through the drawstring through the channel. You can't really see because it's all on the inside of the bag. And now that I'm done, I'm tying off the little ends and working it through to the length that I want it to be and snipping off the other end and tying a knot on that. And once you're done, you can tie it into a little bow. And there she is, the finished doll of Buzzabelle. I'm really glad that I decided to make her. I'm really glad that she turned out so good for my first custom, and I'm really glad that I actually decided to film her. And I'm already working on a couple more dolls, so expect more videos if you liked this one. I don't have a schedule yet though, and it might be a while, so if you do want to see my next one, go ahead and subscribe. It'll be out eventually, I promise. I might post more pictures on my Tumblr. If anyone's wondering about any of the things that I didn't post in this video, I can answer them there. And thanks for joining me on this. It's been really fun.